Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2014 USBC Open Championships. This is Matt Cannizzaro live at the National Bowling Stadium, getting ready for the 7 p.m. team event here. Aaron Smith will be joining me shortly. Looking forward to an exciting evening. Here, our first official team event of the year. Two talented teams from Minnesota about to take the lane, so practice just ended. We'll be underway momentarily. Thanks for joining us. All right, just like that, we're underway here at the NBS. Once again, Matt Cannizzaro live at the 2014 USBC Open Championships. Thanks to everybody for joining us on this Sunday evening. I know it's late on the East Coast, but hopefully tuning in will help you learn something as you prepare for your time here at the Open Championships. Once again, we're here to see Breakpoint Pro Shop 1 and 2. Two talented teams from Sartell, Minnesota. Always in the mix here. Actually made a run last year. Breakpoint 1 moving into the regular team lead. And the number they're shooting at here in 2014, 33-11. It happened moments ago. Talented Country Lanes 1 of Heartland, Wisconsin. Had a big start, 11:08, 11:54. And finished strong at 10:49 to move into the top spot. Again, 33-11 is the number they're chasing, and those are the two teams, Town and Country Lanes 1 and Breakpoint Pro Shop, that battled to a 10th frame decider at last year's event here at the NBS. That time it was Breakpoint coming out 30 pins ahead. Ended up finishing in the top 50. We're now on separate squads. The bar has been set. We'll see if Breakpoint can get it done again here in 2014. Eric Pearson stopping by as well. We'll see if we can get him in the booth and talk a little bit while Aaron Smith is finishing up some work. But just get comfortable. We're getting situated as well. And we'll be here for the next 3 hours. Once again, team event, 3 games. We're behind lanes 39 and 40 here at the NBS. And as promised, it's almost as if you knew we were thinking about having him come by. Eric Pearson, the lane guru.
Hi, Matt.
How's it going, Mr. Pearson?
Is this a left-handed headset or
These are
two lefties here?
two lefties. This booth is lopsided now. But you, sir, are an expert well beyond my years, so I'm looking forward to hearing your analysis here. I know some of your personal friends, the Heartland crew, Town and Country Lanes, minutes ago took the team lead here, 33-11. Could have been a bigger number, and I've already been working on that story a little bit with Aaron Smith, and saw that they battled some transition in game number 3 and struggled. And we've talked in previous broadcasts again about the Kegel ice oil delaying that transition to where that would have been sooner, halfway through game 2 maybe in the past, but that oil much more durable, holds up till later in the day, and we saw that now in game 3. But did you get a chance to watch them much? Can you talk about what they were doing or what you saw out there?
No, I did. Obviously, they were in town yesterday, and I saw them for a little bit, but I decided to stay home today. The wife's not feeling really good. Did some things around the apartment. Just wandered in for this and caught them walking out the door. Sounds like they're each guy was kind of up and down. Only one guy really bolt steady all 3 games. The guy on the team that hooks the ball the most, Tony Buss, sounds like he struggled again the first game. 2 years in a row, he's come out of the gates with 160, and then once it transitions a little bit for him and he gets comfortable, he tends to shoot 80 to 100 over for the next 2. That's kind of normal for him. And then it sounds like their straighter player bowled very well out of the gates. The first 2 games pretty consistent, and he's the one that ran into trouble in game 3 as he had to start moving left. He just couldn't make a big enough move. He said only one of the lanes really hurt him. 47 really got a dry spot on it for him, and the other guy said they didn't notice it as much, assuming that they were just deeper on the lane. So again, it's hard to get 4 or 5 guys all lined up at the same time and then stay lined up. That's what makes it so challenging and makes winning a Team Eagle such a prestigious thing.
Well, that's why it is a team event. We see it, year in and year out. And nobody likes to be the low guy, but somebody has to. Yeah. And we saw it. We saw it in 2008, especially. That one stands out to me. Mike Nape and the Fox Bowl guys winning team all events. Mike at the time, always making a run for the average lead, the lifetime average lead. He didn't shoot 1900 that year, and he'll gladly take 1880 every single year if it means winning an Eagle. But that's what it's all about. And last year with the team record, Lodge Lanes 2, Scott Newell, 664, very down on himself after that team event, thinking that he maybe let it get away. But got to see him later on, Eagle in hand. That score held up, and it's never a good feeling, but that's what your teammates are there for.
Yeah, if your low man was 640, 650, though, nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, I think most teams, if they knew going in that was what was going to happen, you could almost pencil somebody in for 730 or 740 if your low guy is going to be, 6.5. So. Well,
I mean, those guys shot 35-38, the highest team score in history, and then we saw it again, not too long after with Eric Vermelia's group, Team USA support, their left-hander, Jeffrey Merce. Struggled by his standards. By my standards, sure. 19-0, a fantastic score, but he was low on the team by quite a bit. And they shot 10,000 plus, and that was a huge number as well.
Right, yes. I think we're going to see a similar number to that to this year, maybe even a possibility of a number higher than that. And the guys that just left the lanes actually bowled on this squad last year. And they shot like 20 or 30 pins higher, but yet this team that we're watching right here in front of us bowled about 10 lanes away and shot 40 or 50 more.
They were 30 pins apart. These guys shot 33, 58, 68 last year. Those guys just behind them. It was a 10th frame battle. We mentioned that as we came on the air here, and now the Town and Country guys have set the bar. 33-11 is the new number. Previous leader 32-36. So only 2 teams have cleared the 3,200 mark, and there's speculation always and early. As soon as a score shot or somebody has a good game, that the scores are going to be through the roof, and you never know. And
right,
and like I try to tell them, the scores are going to change. They're going to vary from year to year. Some years they might be higher. Okay, some years they're going to be lower, and that's all part of the challenge of the event, of course. But you come out, you take your one shot at it. If it was the same condition every year.
Right.
That would be incredibly less fair.
And overall, I mean, I think we want a slightly different pattern. Most of the shape in the pattern is the same as last year. We just took it a little bit longer and found different ways to create different taper with a couple of the new features in the new flex machine. So, overall, I don't see the lanes really feeling a whole lot different than last year. Definitely, they look different on paper, but
when there's something you can talk a little bit about. I mean, we saw for the first time last year the debut of the ice oil. That certainly changed the things a little bit, changed the strategy and some of the game plans, just because of what it's designed to do. And now we have, of course, the flex machine, which has incredible capabilities as well. But how do you utilize these tools to make, let's say, 2013 different than 2012, and now using the new machine and what you have at your fingertips here in 2014?
The new machine, one of the features is the variable mic streams, meaning we don't have to put out the same volume of oil with every stream of oil that goes on the lane. So if we feel like the outsides have a little too much hang or a little too much hook, we can adjust just the outside part of the lane with the 2-to-2 mic streams, instead of saying, we have to add a stream of oil or take away. We can just take any particular load stream and up it a couple mics or lower it a couple mics, which really fine-tunes what we're looking for. We utilized that at this year's Masters. We had used Infinity last year at Carolier Lanes, and we went with ice this year and said we're not really going to change up the pattern, but we wanted to feel similar to last year because the results were so good. So all we did was really adjust the mic streams from the outside part of the lane to the inside part of the lane and try to get the lane to feel the same even though it was a different oil. And again, this year we had great results at the Masters. So something that obviously we're going to have to learn as we go along. Obviously our Kegel consultant that comes in and helps us get things set up has been testing this for quite a while, and they've used it all over the world, but really is kind of our first chance to use these kind of fine-tuning measures, I guess you'd call them. And I have to say that the very appropriately named flex is in flexibility to just kind of change the patterns a little bit. A lot of people would use the word tweak. I don't like to use that term, but just very fine-tuned adjustments to kind of get what you're looking for. So I think we have it here, so I think they're going to be slightly different than last year, but you might see very similar scores.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. The general strategy in many recent years has been for the teams to play the lanes together, often with a little bit of surface to try to break down the outside part of that pattern, create a little bit of area to the outside. This particular group has 2 left-handers and 8 right-handers. And we see here Corey Zimmerman already well left at the laydown point, and that one didn't quite make it.
You are correct. Yeah, I was looking at where he walked up to the line. I thought he was probably going to cross about 3rd arrow, and he was very steep through the front. That ball actually crossed closer to 2nd arrow and got out to the edge and fell in the gutter. So
we saw on the right lane here, Gene Allen and Barry Zimmerman both pretty far to the right, pretty straight, and could be just simply, that's their comfort zone, their style. But this strategy very important in how you break the lanes down, and a good recovery there for shot. Corey. But yeah, we saw it. You saw it with Tony Buss. We saw it with Nick Wissinger back in 2012. As far as maybe being out of your comfort zone at the beginning, as you try to break the lanes down, as you go with the team strategy, all with the big picture in mind.
You are very observant. You see that a lot. Guys come in, they have a team game plan, but there's always 1 or 2 guys in the group that tend to say, I want to be an arrow deeper, I want to be steeper. And you're right. You can very easily get out of your comfort zone and almost feel like you're wasting your time in practice and maybe a portion of the first game trying to be like all your other teammates. I guess going with that mentality, yes, with the patterns being flatter, sport complying, wanting the oils to hold up longer and longer, prior to, say, ice oil. Yeah, you're right. The lane's played in such a manner that carving away or trying to create a friction area on the lane was the best game plan. I think last year was kind of the start. Definitely this year, the ability of us to do what we want with these lane machines and their technologies improving should hopefully take some of that away. I don't really feel like there should be a need where everybody decides we have to break down a 2 or 3 board area to create, free hook to make the lane easier.
Well, some groups get so caught up in that, and they don't realize what's happening. They don't make the necessary moves. But at the same time, we've talked to some folks. We talked to David Anthony after they got done with doubles and singles, which is a similar idea now with 6 on a pair. Certainly, the same strategy can be employed. But of their 6 guys, they were playing all over the lane. You had a couple guys to the right, a couple guys who like to hook the ball more, and a couple guys in the middle. And then when it was time for the middle of the way guys to move left, they immediately hit the burn created by the 2 guys that like to hook the ball. So you're creeping left, and all of a sudden you have to make a huge move. If you don't see it fast enough, you're sacrificing quite a few frames.
Yeah, I can see that. Even here just off camera, there's a bowler throwing a real dull piece of equipment, but he's also trying to roll the ball more end over end, so he is to the right. And I think what you're saying is some of the guys with more hand to be able to get the ball to recover might go with some more surface, and then they also play left of their teammates. And then when those straighter teammates have to start migrating to the middle of the lane, there is a good chance that they do catch that part that high rev player might have been throwing too strong of a ball or too much surface on that ball, and then you're right, they get caught up in the transition. They can't quite figure it out because now the moves don't make sense. I think one of the best things about the oil is that the slower transition of it should allow all of your moves to be more logical. But if someone decides to come out and play the lane in maybe a goofy manner, you're right, that kind of throws all that out the window and could end up hurting the team more than helping.
Well, and that could be where it's misleading when they're fresh, especially. I mean, you can have a great look from somewhere else on the lane and feel like you're going to strike all day, but then as the lanes change and people start moving around, what you did there certainly is going to affect everything as a whole later on.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things with the pattern here and with some of the other feature in the machine is the ability to run the buffer at different RPMs, meaning we can make it spin faster and put more oil in the heads. We can make it spin slower down lane and taper the oil off more gradual and create earlier ball read, which is what we did with 43 feet. We didn't want to make them too tight down lane. The ball really should pick up fairly decent on its own. And you don't necessarily need a bunch of guys out there carving away with super dull stuff. But because there is that, I guess, sense that the ball can recover and there is enough hook on the lane, I think that's what opens up the different angles, and different style bowlers go, hey, I have a good look. You throw it a little straighter, you want to play 7, I turn it a little bit more, I want to play 12. And those looks are both out there, better than ever because of these features of the machine, in my opinion. As I said, we're still learning. But that's the thing I noticed during our setup process and some of the things we ran and some of the bowlers we watched was that the angles are all out there. And I'm not saying that one angle's better or worse than another, but I think the ability for the ball to slow down and recover allows all styles of bowler to get comfortable somewhere on the lane. Now, whether or not that transitions the lane for the better or worse, I guess we'll have to find out. We'll see what happens here during the next couple weeks here as we start to see the teams get a little bit stronger. Hopefully squad sizes get a little bit larger. And, again, the ability for other teams coming later to learn and see things, it's just a never-ending thing that I would expect scores to go up. The environment is causing that to happen. That's another topic.
So it's not by design that you just want everybody to have huge scores and have a great time. Of course, that's always a goal. But can you talk while you're here about some of the thought process that goes into designing a pattern? And I try to explain it, as it has to be attackable from various angles, different sides of the lane, different styles, to give everybody a chance to hit the pocket. At the same time, you still need to make good shots and make your spares because this is a national championship.
Yes.
And you want a premium on shot making and spare shooting.
And you bring up a very good topic. It's getting harder and harder to do that. The good bowlers continue to get better, understand equipment, layouts, how lanes play. Some of your more novice bowlers that just come here to enjoy the event, and obviously we need all those bowlers, and it's our goal to try to create reaction for all those people without making them, feel impossible to the majority, and without making them, not characteristic of what a national championship should be. And like I said, it's getting harder and harder every year, but I think with this year's situation and kind of basing things off of last year, we didn't want to go too crazy away from last year, especially being back in the same building here. There's only so many things you can do. So we kind of took last year's thought process and said, are we willing to go with something similar, try to make it feel a little bit different? Hopefully more bowlers feel like they come out here and they have a look, which is our goal. It's not to have one magical line on the lane for one or two styles to bowl very well on. And I think by creating those better angles for more bowlers, I would expect scores to be higher. At least overall, all event scores. I'm not saying the team event score will be higher, but I would expect doubles and singles to be higher than last year, and therefore your all event scores will be a little bit higher.
So we're certainly seeing a few strikes here in game number 1 from the Breakpoint Pro Shop guys. But the misses are not close. We're seeing the 2-4-7 there, tough spare and a miss for McCullough. And then Corey Zimmerman staring down the same thing, the 3-6-10. And we saw that just one frame ago from John Mueller. So the misses seem to be in and high. We've seen a lot of these 3-pin combinations here. And of course, the back end's still fresh, everybody getting comfortable. But there's another miscue. But certainly giving away a lot of pins early, both in count and on the spares there. Terrific shot there from Gene Allen coming back after the open frame. But as you're coming down here, the lights are kind of bright, the ceilings are high. Your name's on the scoreboard, and you're trying to get comfortable. What's your safest route to just keep the ball in the pocket and just to stay out of trouble, at least early?
It's always tough here. I mean, especially like you say, the high ceiling, the lane feels long. I always feel, even just watching bowling here, it's a little bit tougher to read ball reaction in this building with the high ceilings. It never really looks like the ball makes a strong move on the back end, I've always felt here. But getting comfortable, I always feel at Nationals, the biggest thing is your launch angles need to be much tighter than they are when you bowl at home or on softer conditions. Only because, there might be a little extra recovery down the lane, but if you miss right early, miss left early for a lefty, it's still going to hang on you. It's not coming back. If you get too straight through the front of the lane, based on the angle you're playing, it's still going to go high. There's sport conditions. They're still under 3-1. But sometimes, depending on what you're used to bowling on, that is probably the biggest difference that bowlers run into when they come to the national tournament. They just need to close up those angles a little bit. Get the feet a little bit straighter to the angle, to the arrow they're playing.
Well, here's a look at Eric George up on lane 39. He too is a little bit deeper at the laydown.
Yep.
Gets it right, misses the head pin. So again, we're seeing that we've got a few guys pretty straight up the right side, and then a couple of guys pretty deep.
Yeah, for where he's playing through the arrows there, that ball was easily 3-4 boards too wide at the break point.
So as you said, gotta keep those angles tight. Certainly not going to get that kind of recovery, not on a sport condition.
Yeah, you won't even get that in the third game. Those balls aren't going to come back.
I think that shot a lot closer to where he should be, I would think, at least early. Gets the head pin off of that spare, so it's 8-1 for George. Our lefty, Jeff Smith, and I saw it last year with the ice oil personally. As the games transitions, I was the only lefty out there. The righties maybe didn't have a great look at first, but of course they opened up a little bit, and I felt like I was close, but just couldn't quite get there. There's a big difference. It's either 6-pin or a flat 7, and then at that point, you try to make a big move, make a ball change. All of a sudden, you're looking at a washout or a big 4, and you just don't have the help, the traffic, to help open that up. But so we'll see how these two lefties battle that today.
Yeah, I've always felt on the left side I'd rather be by myself or have a bunch of them. I don't even want to have one to cross with, because chances are we're not playing the same angles through the front, and the adjustments just don't make sense then. You're not making your 1-and-1s or a 2-and-1 because you have other traffic. I'd almost rather have more of them to keep the one side of the lane more blended. Same with here on the right side. I think we saw that last year. Some of the teams that tried to attack the lane a little too much in one zone almost created a tougher condition, more of a wet-dry, I guess people would call it. And I really believe that you always want to keep the lane somewhat blended. Obviously, you want to create friction for mistake area, but that's a fine line also. And I just think to be able to get the ball to the pocket in a couple different spots where it can still hit the 1-3 and strike, things need to stay at more of a blend. You don't want to make them too extreme, where it does maybe get a little wet dry on you, and then it does start to have that feel of a house pattern where it's a little high, then you move and it's a corner pin, and you have trouble getting the ball to face the pocket at the right time.
Well, here's a loaded question for you, but we've seen it, both ways in recent years. We see it in all events across the board. But this year, in order to find success here, are we going to see the teams grinding out the first game and then having 2 big games as they open up, or are we going to see the big game while they're fresh and then teams try to just struggle to hold on as the day, just like we saw this afternoon, 11-0, 11-50, big game 2, then the transition and 10-49 in game 3. But how do you see that this year, or is that going to change as the tournament progresses and people learn more?
You want my gut feeling on it? I think you're going to see a lot of teams that just come out, know how to bowl, and they're going to start kind of like the guys did on the first shift today with a decent 1100, and they might just shoot 3 1100s or a high 1000 in the middle, and just be very steady. I also think you have the opportunities based on the guys staying lined up and the way they break them down, that it's very possible that a team might shoot a monster third game this year. Just my gut feeling, if they break them down right, the pattern is 43 feet, and I did say we tried to create more taper. There's less volume in the middle, so the tapes are a little bit flatter down lane than they were last year, but I still believe broken down properly, there's enough oil in the front and in the mid lane that if you get the right angles later in the day, that you will feel that 43 feet of hold area if it's done properly, and you might see a monster third game out of a couple teams. I'll go out on a limb. You might see a record score of the third game. 1,300 possibly. What's the record score?
1281.
1281 sounds right. I think if teams do it right, the possibility of the third game is there.
All right, now here's another question for you as the lane dude. People see 43 feet, immediately intimidated. The ones who know bowling well, they understand, look at the graph, look at the volume. But for your average guys, they see 43 feet, they automatically think the ball's never going to hook. And, we talked about the other day about automatically, immediately grabbing the sandpaper, the Avalon, whatever you need to do to try to make the ball hook. But we're seeing a lot of shiny balls here, early in the team event. But as far as equipment selection and reading a lane graph, what can you add to that discussion?
Well, normally, and I wouldn't call 43 feet long necessarily. I mean, I guess if you put it in the range of patterns when we do team trials or things like that, yes, I guess it's beyond the medium range. I believe with the way the oil's tapered here and the volume being a little bit lower, it doesn't feel long, at least not on the fresh. But normally, the longer you go, it just changes the zone you play on the lane. And definitely one thing we see a lot of is when you see longer patterns, especially at a higher level competition like a team trials or a world event, longer does not mean more surface. It doesn't mean there's more oil on the lane and your ball's going to have trouble hooking. It usually just means you need to play a tighter angle in the inside part of the lane. Well, if you're playing a tighter angle, you actually need less hook. You don't need the ball to churn and grind up the lane, because it's only going to cover a handful of boards from the front of the lane to the head pin. So we've seen that a lot of times, like I said, at team trials or a junior gold, where they see long, like Paris pattern, 47 feet, and everybody grabs charcoal and the ball's burned up at 30, 35 feet down the lane. It can't make a move on the back end at all, because longer does not mean you need duller. Longer means just, smoother, but not necessarily charcoal. Slightly different pin placements and layouts, but definitely not early hook just because it's longer.
Should teach a seminar. We should have on your day off. We should have Eric Pearson.
Well, I need to learn a little bit more about ball covers and layouts for sure. I'm just saying, based on things I see, I'm just an observer. Just during interesting conversations with some of the Team USA coaches, when the players are limited to only bring in 4 or 5 or 6 balls for a competition, a lot of times they say they throw the same ball on the long pattern that they throw on the short pattern, which I find kind of unique. It tends to be when you get into the medium ranges and your shapes and your volumes change, that's when you start to see more things with different covers, preparations, and layouts.
I think we're certainly looking
cleaner
at
shot there.
Looking at two teams here that understand many of the things we're talking about. And Aaron chatted with them earlier, and he'll come on and talk about what he learned about their strategy, if anything, or if they just came to bowl. As simple as that. Sometimes the less you think, the easier it is. There's another terrific shot.
That's a great shot. Very tempered ball speed. Nothing too firm or soft. He just went up. Good shot. He got the ball off his hand, let it float down the lane, and it reacted. Corey, kid on the top team, definitely turns it up a lot more. Did the same thing. Just got it off his hand nice and easy and let the ball see the lane properly. Sometimes I think you can try too hard.
Well, Barry Zimmerman celebrating his 25th year. He's no stranger to success here at this event or in this building. Had a 300 here in 2010 and 299 back in 2002 in Billings, Montana. So he's been around a little bit, understands what it takes, and just a little bit older gentleman with the smoother, more classic style. And you see a good mix of players here as far as their age and experience. And
yeah, this is there's quite a diverse group of guys here in this group. Definitely different ages, different rev rates. Just trying to kind of pick out here how certain styles are what angles they're trying to play here. Just a hair grabby on that shot, not a rod. Quality player there. I mean, a lot of strikes on the board. Not really a lot has been put together yet. There's probably a couple too many opens. But as you say, if they get out of the gates with a decent game, and there's a long way to go here. I think potentially one of the trickier things we're going to see is having the right ball in your hand with the right surface for your roll and speed, so that it sees the lane properly, so that you have good carry. I can see a lot of guys come in and throwing the ball very well and getting to the 1-3 and just not able to knock down 10 pins often enough. And obviously that's just going to be ball matchup or something within your game that you just don't quite have put together quite right. I can see that happening here very easily with the pattern.
Once again, folks, if you're just joining us, and we have a huge crowd in the chat room, 547 folks here to watch the first official team event of this year's live stream schedule.
You go, Matt.
This is Matt Canizaro, Media Relations Manager here at the Open and Women's Championships. And the lane guy, the do-it-all guy, also Women's Championships Tournament Manager Eric Pearson, stopping by to talk bowling with us. But we are live behind lanes 39 and 40 here at the National Bowling Stadium. And we have a new leader in the team event in the clubhouse here at the 2014 Open Championships. 3311 is the number shot just a couple of hours ago. Bar raised just a little bit, and Breakpoint Pro Shop 1 and 2. They've been there, they know how to get there, and we'll see if it can all come together. Quite a few holes on the board here in game number 1, but everybody starting to look more comfortable. Corey Zimmerman with a 3-bagger there.
He's getting comfortable. This ball needs to lay off, and it did.
And the word.
How often do you come into the event and you're all excited and you're raring to go and you kind of have an expectation of how things are going to be, and then you get your 10 minutes of practice and you get maybe 5 or 6 shots in, and either you don't feel solid at the foul line, or you're not getting the ball off your hand quite as well, or whatever it is, you just don't quite feel comfortable. And it maybe sometimes it takes you 6-7 frames to finally say, okay, I got my feet under me, I'm calmed down, I'm starting to see the ball reaction a little bit better, I'm getting it off my hand. I think you kind of see that happening here with some of these guys.
Well, the word from the bullpen, Aaron Smith, we checked in with Eric George earlier, and in their practice, they saw what you intended, and that was that this can be attacked from multiple angles. So they didn't really have a solid game plan. They just wanted to come out here and use their practice time and early on to feel it out and see. They felt comfortable with their surfaces and what they had, so they didn't make any adjustments there. And they figured they'd all end up around 15 by the end of the day. And it's just a matter of their starting point, I guess, and the idea that that's where they'd like to be when it's all over with.
Well, the two lefties are definitely playing them similar, almost pointing the ball off the corner, not really swinging the ball at all. It's almost a straight up the lane or even a left to right point.
That was Smith on 39, and certainly got that one left, but as you said, pointing it off the corner. That one actually recovered a little bit more than I thought it would, leaving just the 3-pin.
Yeah, that definitely, compared to his last couple of shots, was a little more up the lane and didn't really have that left to right point. Not quite sure they need to be that far out. I mean, the only thing about getting farther away at the arrows just means your ball's farther away from the head pin at the break point. So,
well, and Jeff Smith, a 209.6 average here through 18 years. A couple solid years here in Reno. 2010, 1931, 2011, 2062, and last year 1923 with 762 in the team event.
Yeah,
so last year's team pattern a little bit shorter, a couple feet shorter than this year. This year we're at 43 feet, and some people are seeing just a little bit more hold, down the lane, and 762 is a huge number anyway, and of course that helped his team into the lead with 33.58 at the time, and tied for 45th, or just inside the top 40. It was Town and Country that tied for 45th last year, 30 pins behind Breakpoint Pro Shop. So Jeff Smith, his team average a little bit lower than the other two events, and we see that a lot with the left-handers too. It just kind of works out. It's always a grind, getting comfortable, and sometimes being out there almost by yourself.
Bumpkin comes out of the back for that spare. Again, the first ball is just a little bit too steep. It obviously got wider than he intended down lane, and got back enough to hit the head pin, but leave it to a 10 combination. But he made it. Lefty's a little bit further inside than Jeff. Same kind of angle, but just a little further to the right. Not a lot of rev rate out of Greg, so a much straighter trajectory. I heard Mike Diaz played much deeper.
They ended up a little bit deeper, but again, you know, we're looking at the 40-foot doubles and singles pattern. And,
that's true. Okay.
Yeah, so we actually didn't watch them too much in the team event. We saw them just for all 6 games, and
I gotcha.
And again, they were kind of all over the lane as far as where each person was playing, and that affected things a little bit. But the 2 left-handers got as deep as I've probably seen any left-handers in a while. But those guys have the accomplishments for us not to even question. And they didn't bowl badly. You know, they were all in the 1800s. That's your target score when you come out here. That's a good number for sure.
Well, we'll see if Corey can get another one off his hand good here. He's got 3 in a row. Looks like he's settled in and just letting go of it now and letting the ball see the lane properly. That's not too bad, a little bit in. And it held flush. I definitely think if you have a little bit more hand and you are further to the middle of the lane, you do see the hold of a 43-foot pattern. I'm not saying that's the right spot to be from the get-go and that's going to give you the best look, but it's like certain angles it looks like 43 feet and other angles it doesn't. I'm wondering how much that'll play into transition for teams when guys are playing different spots on the lane, that certain guys will make a move and the lane might actually feel tighter because they get into a zone where the angle through the front doesn't allow the ball to see the lane enough and it does push too far for them and washes out or whatever. And they go, hey, that feels like the lane just got a foot or 2 longer. Whereas guys with more hand probably don't sense that at all. We'll see as things play out here as you see more teams come through.
Well, and Eric, looking at our standings right now, 33-11 is on top 10, 30-91, and there's really no pattern as far as, you know, again, we talked about, you know, small first games, grinding it out, big last games. It's pretty well mixed as far as, you know, where the teams are finding their success. And, you know, there's been a few that are consistent, and those are, of course, the ones at the top.
Right. I would say that's probably just more of a fact that as you get into the stronger teams, they will, number one, make more, better, consistent shots, and they will probably pick up on things a lot quicker. Something might happen to the lane, and a player's going to walk off, and he's going to tell the other guys. As those stronger teams probably just communicate a little bit better, they throw better shots, and they're able to adjust to what they think they need to do a hair quicker. They maybe don't waste as many frames. They will definitely throw bigger strings of strikes. You'll see more 4 and 5 baggers as opposed to doubles and turkeys out of those types of teams. I just don't think you've seen that kind of range of teams yet, and that's why you're kind of seeing the up and down from the team scores.
Well, so far across the board, it looks like 1050 close to 1100 is a good score. I mean, those are great numbers so far this year. And once again, plus 91 is 10th right now. So
I think when you get your stronger teams together, because you have 5 really, really solid bowlers, you always have the capability of 2 of those guys going 250 or better at the same time, which already gets you to 1100. And it's just a matter of the other 3 guys staying between, like, say, 2-0 and 220. And that could get you anywhere from 11-0 to 1190, you know. So, you know, 220s or 230s out of those other guys. As we said earlier, though, it's hard to get 4 or 5 guys lined up at the same time. But the possibilities of at least 2 of your players being really strong and the other 2 or 3 kind of just grinding away and shooting 2-0, 2-10, 220 is a very good possibility again this year. I would think 1150 is a is a solid game, and if you throw that all 3 games, you know, you're 450 over, and last year that was 100 pins off the lead almost. So as good a bowling as that is, and I have no idea what scores. You never know what's going to happen. You know, if I had to make a prediction, I think team event score will be, you know, lower than last year. You know, there could be a 3,500. I don't think you're going to see 3 or 4 of them. And maybe a low 3,500 wins or a high like a 3,480. Just based on the fact that they're not that different from last year. Oh, bad break there. 3 in a row going into the 10th and just a hair high. 6-8.
Well, again, on these challenging conditions, those little misses are magnified quite a bit. We've seen more than anything the 3-6-10, 2-4-7, and of course a terrible break there with the 6-8.
And obviously, I mean, the line he's playing, he is kind of jamming the ball up the lane, kind of going right up at the head pin. So it just didn't seem like there was enough angle to leave both pins. But I guess it was high enough, and the ball goes straight back through. It doesn't. Nothing hits the 8. That's 30 pins lost for 193 potential pins.
Certainly a great start there from leadoff bowler Jeff Linnell, 238. Leadoff guy builds the momentum, the human firework. It's the guy that's going to keep the read moving from lane to lane and relay that information to his teammates. Everybody serves a role on the team, and that guy is the communicator typically.
We're looking here, it looks like you got 2 guys that can go 2-0 off the sheet, and the other bowler at 2 teens, so another 20 sticks out there for him. So it looks like they go about between 10-50. Now you got a spare potential here, lose 10 more. So probably not more than a 10-50 start here. There's a good indication of what I was saying earlier. The down the lane, that ball was a little bit wider than a couple shots, and it got back to the pocket. It's not going to always strike, but that one did. That miss early on the lane is not going to get you to the pocket, but down the lane, a little bit wider than he probably intended. And the ball had the ability to slow down and get back to the head pin, and shook up the rack for a strike there. That's a 5-bagger. And after kind of a jittery start there, the first 4 or 5 frames.
Yeah, it was the 3rd frame was that gutter spare.
He kind of rushed that shot. Kind of got away with the first ball in the 10th, and he did not take any time there. He picked the ball up off the ball return and jumped right back up there. Got it even wider yet, and that one did stay out there.
Corey Zimmerman, this is just his 2nd tournament appearance, and potentially a little bit intimidating, you know, born with these guys with the accomplishments in all the years. And Corey bowled in 2012 in Baton Rouge. Had 524 in the team event, 618 all events total on a challenging condition. But it's got to be a lot of pressure bowling with guys who have the ability and proved it last year in getting to the lead, getting to the top spot, and being in contention every year.
That looked like a flat 10 type zone right there, and then he did leave one, didn't he?
It was a great shot. Certainly wasn't flat by any means. But they're talking about it, you know. Gene Allen is talking to Barry Zimmerman. What did he see in the 10th frame there? 8 spared, and then a good shot for the 10 pin. Gene Allen, 20 years
nice to
in.
see Barry catch a double here, give himself a chance at 2-teen. Started with an open, only has 1 double up to here. That needs to carry.
It's a great shot there. for the double.
Yeah, he's a little bit more in the track. He's not quite as straight as a couple of the other guys. He's a little further left. The ball's looks like a little bit shinier. Not covering a lot of boards though. Looked like a pretty similar shot there, and he wrapped a 10.
Always challenging 3-6, 9-10. This could be an open frame for Geringer. After the strike to start the 10th, so 195. Good place for that if it's going to happen. George stepping up on the right. 8 tournaments in, 214.7 average. 213.5 in the team event. 668 last year. Denied 4 in a row by the 10 pin there on lane 40.
Yeah, he liked it too.
Eric, as game 1 winds down here, it looks like these guys, you know, as you said, looking a lot more comfortable, and most of them keeping the ball around the pocket now. So we saw the misses were 7 earlier, and now we're getting some 7s and 10 pins. And
I'm just not sure they have the right motions to strike a lot. Again, good example there. Jeff Teague online got the ball to the pocket, but just did not set up at the right time and rung the 7. Unfortunately, he goes by it on the right for an open 10th. They finish out with 1,008.
So with 2 opens in the 10th frame, 1,008. Obviously a little bit disappointing, but I mean, anytime you get to 1,000, you gotta feel pretty good about that. And knowing that you gave away quite a few pins too, means that you're in the right area. Just have to focus on those fundamentals.
Yeah, I think here you got, especially all the guys in the middle, you got the 2 190s and the 2-0. No 3-baggers out of any of those guys. I take that back, 1 3-bagger. Handful of opens. You know, are they questioning him and not rolling the ball consistently enough? Is that why I didn't string any strikes? Am I not matched up right? Or do they just feel like, you know what, we have a game plan, we've stuck to it now, let's just hang in there and keep doing what we're doing and see what happens. Things are going to go up. I'm not quite sure if I was down in that group what I'd be thinking.
All right, well, here we are heading into game number 2 already. 941 for Breakpoint Pro Shop 1. 1,008 for Breakpoint Pro Shop 2. And once again, this is Matt Cannizzaro and Eric Pearson live at the 2014 USBC Open Championships team event behind lanes 39 and 40 here at the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada. Thank you all for joining us. If you're just coming in late, game 1 in the books, game 2 underway. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us at youtube.com/bowltv, and by subscribing means you'll get the heads up when things are about to happen. You won't miss any of our future broadcasts. This is just one of nearly 30 from Reno this year between the Open and Women's Championships, USBC Queens, Intercollegiate Team and Singles Championships. You name it. If it's
Looking forward to that. That's
yep.
all set now. Busy weekend for the sectionals, all wrapped up today, and your ISC and ITCs are all set up. We're making preparations down at the convention center to get our scoreboards and everything ready for that that week-long event. Really looking forward to that, having all the kids come out and experience the convention center setting for the national championships. It's going to be awesome.
And for those of you not familiar, once again, Eric Pearson, also, besides being the lane guru, is the tournament manager at the USBC Women's Championships. And now for the second time in history, second consecutive year, the Women's Championships will be held in the same host city as the Open Championships. The WC will be across town at the Reno Sparks Convention Center, 44 lanes built inside that facility just for the ladies. And it'll have a different look than it did last year in 2013. And of course, this time they will welcome in the top collegiate bowlers in the country, giving those youngsters the opportunity to experience the convention center setting, the banners hanging from the rafters, the high ceilings, the world's largest mobile scoreboard of its kind. A one-of-a-kind experience, and hopefully get them hooked on what we have to offer and be the next generation of Open and Women's Championships participants. So looking forward to that. Mid-April.
Mid-April, yep. The women's tournament starts Friday, April 11th. We'll have a weekend's worth of squads for the ladies to get them started. And right when we get through that weekend, that following Monday, the singles bowlers all come out for their day of qualifying and match play for the ISC. And then Tuesday's kind of a break day. That's when we check in all the teams and get everything ready. And then your top 16 and men and women's teams from the sectionals this weekend will all be out there for the ITC title. A couple days, I think there's a day of qualifying and then a couple days of match play. Narrowed down to I believe it's a Saturday taping for the finals on the TV show. So a lot of work to be done there yet. Waiting on some materials though, but it's going to get a facelift. Obviously our deal of coming to Reno back-to-back years, hosting the women in the convention center, was Reno being gracious enough to say you can build the venue and you can leave it in there during the off season. So all in all, it saves the tournament, saves our funds over $1 million to be able to build it and leave everything there. Obviously we'll spend a little money here. We'll change out the settee floor and the masking units and repaint the walls, get a little different color scheme in there, and just try to give it a little bit different look for all the ladies coming back for their second year to the convention center.
Well, and certainly a good transition. We're talking about all the different generations coming to Reno to experience the stadium atmosphere. Starting in 2015, another competitive opportunity for bowlers of all skill levels. The USBC Mixed will debut alongside the Women's Championships here at the National Bowling Stadium. A chance for families and friends to travel and bowl together. Mixed teams of 4, 2 men and 2 women, also mixed doubles, and a singles option. A little bit of an opportunity for perhaps the lower average bowlers who might be intimidated by something like the Open Championships with just the 2 divisions. The USBC Mixed will feature 4 team divisions and 6 doubles and singles divisions that will mirror the Women's Championships.
You are correct.
Average range is anywhere from 135 and below, all the way up to your scratch players, and a chance again to travel, have a little bit of a vacation, and pick up some prize money while enjoying this one-of-a-kind atmosphere here at the National Bowling Stadium.
Yeah, we're hoping to get a lot of our rank and file bowlers that want to bowl another event. Obviously, the ladies coming to town for the women's can bowl 2 events. In that venue next year here will be at the stadium. And maybe we'll get some bowlers back that have since left bowling in the Open Championships over the years. Maybe there's some new bowlers who, as you said, won't be intimidated. Just definitely much more of a fun social atmosphere than not quite so competitive. And definitely, want to get something going in preparation. We do have this new venue going up in Las Vegas here in a couple years that obviously wanted to get something off the ground and running, knowing that we have another big time city down the road with a brand new venue there at South Point. So we'll get things off and running next year, get it off the ground, and do the best we can. I'm sure we'll learn from our own.
Registration for the 2015 Women's Championships and the new USBC Mixed will begin June 3rd. You can find out more information at any time on bowl.com. Of course, bowl.com/women's champ or bowl.com/mixed.
Yeah, one of our game plans was like here for the Open. Pretty much once the tournament gets started, registration needs to open for the following tournament. as it already let us get the women's off and running and give us an opportunity to promote things on site and just kind of put things together a little bit better and get ourselves a little more prepared before we get that opened up and ready. We'll have plenty of time.
All right, yes, registration for the 2015 USBC Open Championships opened on March. This year is the 111th edition of the Open Championship, so next year number 112, and our first time in El Paso, and some initial mixed reviews on El Paso for various reasons. But Eric, you had the opportunity to live there and see it for all it's worth and had a great time. Can you tell us a couple of highlights from El Paso as bowlers think about getting ready to go there and start putting their teams together?
Well, yeah, we were there for the women's tournament with the women's, was here at the stadium in '09, so for us it was exciting, a chance to be in a constructed venue, first time ever for the ladies. Wonderful time, everything real close. A lot of the ladies stayed downtown, a couple hotels right there, very easy to get to the convention center. Definitely a taste of the Southwest there in El Paso. For me, very busy. I didn't get out a whole lot, but definitely staff and all the bowlers that came that year had a wonderful time. One thing we did say, they are guarded against going over the border. That was about the only downside, is that the ladies did not have the opportunity to go over and see Mexico. It's just not recommended, but you know.
As in the media relations department throughout the year, we're going to take the opportunity to show him around all the great things in Reno, teach him what the bowlers are all about, and he'll be ready when we get there in 2015 to party with the bowlers and show you how to do it El Paso style. And so we're looking forward to having him here for the duration of this year's event as we transition.
I got to say, the year we were there, the city was wonderful. All the people involved with the convention center itself, the Visitors Bureau, welcomed us wonderfully. I think the bowlers will enjoy themselves quite a bit down there. They now actually have the year under our belt by having the women's tournament. They did a wonderful job. So I can see with the Open Championships being a little bit bigger, more bowlers, I can see them really rolling out the red carpet down there for all USBC Open bowlers.
Well, in the city of El Paso already, open arms, red carpet, all the cliches, they're ready. They're promoting the event, ready to welcome the bowlers for the first time, and we're looking forward to building in the El Paso Convention Center.
Yeah, I believe we're going to squeeze in, is it 52 lanes plus the side event lanes? We're going to try and get 8 or 10 lanes in. I haven't seen the floor plan in a while. Every once in a while I get to sit in on a meeting with the drawings, but I don't know what the final decision was. I believe it was 52 with 8 or 10 side lanes.
Minimum number so far 48, with the possibility of more, whether it's for the side event or the showcase lanes or for the main event. We'll see. Possibly might be dictated by how registration goes here early on too.
I got you.
But minimum of 48 championship lanes. We'll see how all of that unfolds in the coming months. Once again, if you'd like to register for 2015, you can do that on bowl.com at bowl.com/openchamp. But right now, let's turn our attention back to Breakpoint Pro Shop 1 and 2 here on lanes 39 and 40 at the National Bowling Stadium. And kind of mixed reviews here from these guys here in game number 2 after 9:41 and 10:08 start.
Yeah, it looked like the first couple frames, a lot of the balls are starting to pick up a little bit earlier and slow down and not be quite as dangerous, I guess, down the lane. Balls getting back to the pocket, getting 8 and 9 counts if not striking. Not quite as many strange leaves. This last shot here from Gene looks like he's moved in a little bit and maybe kind of got it off his hand quick. It never saw the lane at all, missed the head pin. And that's kind of what I was saying, that I believe certain bowlers might get into certain zones on the lane where all of a sudden they do feel that the pattern is a little bit longer, based on how they throw the ball. Hard to tell. You just don't quite know how the ball comes off a player's hand or exactly if they threw it how they wanted to. Or another good indication there. That ball picked up plenty early for Barry. Almost went high. I didn't quite see it. He's standing where he released the ball. I couldn't see it, but to me it looks like there's already been a slight transition. Balls are picking up down the lane a little bit easier than they did when they first got started. Very good tempo there out of Rick for a turkey. Rick Geringer just got it off his hand good, didn't overthrow it. Ball read the lane nice, tripped the 4-pin out.
Jeff Smith continuing to struggle here. It felt like he had a pretty good look towards the end of game number 1 and left a 7-pin and missed it in the 10th. But now he's throwing a different ball that we saw earlier, and that one just checked up pretty hard on the back. Obviously, it left the big 4 where, I thought he had a good look earlier.
He's gone to a weaker cover. Definitely, that looks like it's a wrecker. Definitely a little bit weaker, so the ball gets through the front a little bit cleaner, but then snaps harder on the back, and that one there just dove on him a little too hard and threw the nose for a big 4. I would believe he could probably open up his angle a board or two and actually have some room here.
Well, I think earlier we saw just a little bit of surface to smooth out that back end reaction, and that wrecker, of course, a little bit shinier, so it's going to react more off the friction, and perhaps, that is the move, like you said, to potentially move right and open it up a little bit and use that back end reaction.
Yeah, and the other lefty on his pair looks like he's just a hair to the right of him, so when he does move in, I don't think just having the 2 guys there is going to cause any trouble. But I think if he just moves in a little bit, he should actually have a little bit of area here. There's one of those shots, definitely wide. The bowler showed it in his body language, but it got back and only left a 2-pin.
So, Eric, we have a lot of folks in the chat room tonight, and certainly appreciate it. And it looks like kind of a mixed group. Some familiar names. We got Mark London, Davey Rosen checking in as well. Tony Leva was in earlier. And some new folks with some really good questions. Just trying to learn about the event, understand the oil and the equipment, and some folks also pointing out the number of missed spares we're seeing here tonight as well. And spares crucial at this level of play. If you're going to get your name hanging up on a banner, the strikes will come, hopefully, but you have to make your spares along the way. And McCullough, great shot there, just slow and smooth. He's going, it looks like, with a little bit of surface on his ball to tame down that reaction on the back, like we talked about with Smith.
So that looked a little bit direct through the front, and then I lost track of it. Definitely went high. A little high there for a 9-pin out of Barry. He did run the front 3. Definitely soft ball speed. He definitely hits up on the ball. You can see that it has a fairly big footprint when it comes off the pattern. It makes a pretty violent move when it does see the friction there. That one just went a little bit sharp and cut through and left the 9-pin. The previous strike was a little bit high. Maybe time to move a little bit, even just move the feet aboard, maybe 2 and 1.
Eric, we're seeing some strikes around us over on 29 and 30. Terry Phelps working on the front 6, trying to go for 7 here. And we've seen some pretty good strains. We saw our first 300 in the team event. Daryl Carrion from Virginia conquered this 43-foot pattern in his tournament debut. His second 300 of the year, first in the team event. He had 756 and moved into the top 5 in all events as well. So an awesome debut for him. I'm sure we'll see him back. And of course, there's number 7 for Phelps. We'll keep an eye on that, down on 29 and 30. One other 300 this year, and that came in singles. Terrence Blevins of Chicago. 257, 300, and 226 for 783. He's our singles leader. And he finished with a 2001 all events total, so he is still hanging on to 5th place right now. But while we have this opportunity, let's take a quick rundown of the leaderboards here at the 2014 USBC Open Championships. Once again in the team event, 33-11 shot just a few hours ago. Town and Country Lanes from Heartland, Wisconsin. Games of 11:08, 11:54, and 10:49. They struggled with transition there in game number 3, but still the first 3,300 of the year. 5th place in the team event, 31:40, and to make the top 10, 30:91. And we're just a few weeks in here. We kicked off on February 28th, and we'll have more than 9,000 teams come through before we're done on July 13th. Looking forward to all of the great teams yet to come, and we'll feature many of them here on Bowl TV. Regular doubles, number on top, 13-16. And we saw a run at it today, 13:04, settled into 2nd place to make the top 10 right now, just 12:47. And we saw last year, because of the 2 lane conditions for the first time in history, we saw the double scores a little bit lower than we have in the recent past. And again, fresh oil for every squad, so you still have the need to break the lanes down and get comfortable, of course. Everybody on a level playing field. Fresh oil for each squad. And this year, doubles and singles, 40 feet compared to 43 for the team event. But 13-16 on top, 12:47. 10th in doubles right now. Last year, it took 14:40 to win it. In singles, again, 783 is your leader. 5th place, 713. And 10th place, a tie at 699. So only 9 700s so far in singles in the first 2.5 weeks of the tournament. Last year, 795. And that actually surprised me a little bit, that having the bowlers stay in the same pair for 6 games, having the chance to get comfortable and open them up the way they wanted to, I expected that singles number to be a lot higher than it ended up being.
Well, I think one of our worries with that last year with the 2 patterns was that, even though it was already challenging that there were 2, if the doubles and singles pattern was too soft, that yes, doubles would be kind of a grind out and guys would do the best they could to shoot a number, but then the potential for single scores to just be really, really high. We decided to stay with a pattern that was a little bit flatter down the lane, similar to Baton Rouge. We felt they'd play slightly softer here at the stadium. Just felt like the ball would have a little more push to it. A couple, the zones would be a little bit better than they looked like in Baton Rouge. And yet they still played very challenging, not much oil in the middle, down lane. And they stayed very, very tough. Doubles very challenging. Singles might have been, if you did it right, they got a little bit nicer. I would say this year you're going to see those numbers a little bit higher. The shape's not a whole lot different. There's a little bit more in the middle down the lane. I feel that you won't notice that necessarily on the fresh. It should create a couple more angles out of the gate for doubles. You won't feel like you have to play one particular part of the lane to help develop it. I believe there'll be more angles to start out. And then again, it'll kind of be like your team event here. If you do it the right way, well then singles could be really nice. Or again, you could have guys all over the lane because they all have a fairly good look to themselves and maybe nothing really develops too easy for the singles. So hard to say. I could see it going both ways, but I gotta believe you're gonna have a pretty decent double score. I gotta think 40 to 50 pins higher than what was last year's winning score?
1440. Right now the number 1316.
Yeah, I'm guessing like 1480 may win. Singles, I'm gonna guess somewhere in the 820s, kind of back to a normal year. They'll be a little bit better, I believe, this year with just more oil on the lane and slightly better angles to play. But who knows? Just guessing.
All right, and our all events leader, familiar face, Curtis Odom, bowled 300 here a couple of years ago. 2076. He got challenged today by Curtis Woods Jr. Came up a little bit short in second place, 2064. But a tie for ninth place right now, 1972. So 5 bowlers have broken the 2,000 barrier so far in 2014.
Well, I think the 2 Curtis bowlers on top are real good gauges to go off of. Those are 2 solid players. You know, so I think the fact that they both put up 2070, 2060, you know, shows what the upper echelon bowlers are capable of. And then on top of that, you get the good bowler that just happens to get lined up on the right pair and matched up with everything, and that's where you see your bigger scores, your 2100s, and you know, who knows, maybe more than that. What won all events last year?
22-28. John Zerbinski, Team USA member, won the test of versatility on the 2 patterns. Came up big in all 3 sets. Almost had a singles title as well. Finished second at 789.
That's right.
But yeah, these 2 patterns, and you know, it's a marathon now. So you have to conquer 2 different challenging lane conditions in order to come out on top.
Looks like we got 8 in a row over there now.
Terry Phelps on 29 and 30 with the front 8. Aaron Smith on his way down there. We'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I guess if you're just looking at pattern and nothing else to try to judge scores off of using past experience, let's just use last year. I would have to say that all those winning scores, doubles, singles, and all events are all going to be slightly higher this year. All events is a hard one to call. Over 9 games. But I would say just based on pattern and the differences this year, there'll be a higher score than 22-28.
All right, Eric, well, we're seeing a higher score here in game number 2 for sure. Breakpoint Pro Shop 1 and 2. Last year, the Breakpoint guys did take the lead in their team event. They battled the Town and Country folks on their squad, and sometimes it's almost better to have somebody pushing you along the way. We saw that in 2009, where the top 2 teams of the year actually bowled on the same squad, just a few lanes apart. Last year, Breakpoint won the battle and took the lead briefly. Went in to finish in the top 40. And the Town and Country guys tied for 45th, 30 pins back. But those gentlemen bowled earlier today, set the bar at 33-11, and now Breakpoint shooting at that number.
Now, is this the same 10 bowlers as last year? Do you know if it's all, are they all on the same team? I heard maybe a couple names changed around.
Yeah, moving around, same group for the most part. So we can actually find that on bowl.com. All this technology at our fingertips.
I definitely think the guys that bowled this afternoon had something to prove. They had a great year last year for their team. Early in the tournament, they came out, they wanted to put up a number. They bowled very well. Obviously, you had a team on the same squad bowl a little bit better. You know, they're definitely hungry to come out and put up another good score, and they did that today.
Well, I think it's always a good goal to want to improve. So Eric, just a quick rundown from last year. Breakpoint Pro Shop 2, the team that did take the lead. At the time, 33-58, was Barry Zimmerman, Jeff Smith, Greg McCullough, Justin Schiffler, and Eric George. So based on that, clearly you can see a little bit of shifting in the players, the personnel here. But a very talented group nonetheless.
And again, you can kind of see the same thing you see a lot of times. It's hard to get, 3, 4, 5 guys lined up here. Each team has a couple guys doing well, clean with turkeys, and the other guys just trying to mull through here and put something up there, make up for early opens.
And we do have Schiffler in the chat room right now, it looks like. So perhaps willing to share some of the changes and maybe a little bit of insight on what we're seeing here tonight. Here's McCullough looking for 4 in a row. Another great shot by the smooth left-hander. And it looks like the lefties on the same page, both on board. Jeff Smith with a 3-bagger of his own. After a ball change resulted in a split, made the right moves. He's on track. Mueller with his first strike of the game here in frame number 7. And of course, we're also watching lanes 29 and 30 here at the NBS. Terry Phelps with the front 9. Looking to become the 3rd bowler this year to roll a 300 game. We'll keep you updated on that. Aaron Smith perhaps going to grab some footage as we get close. Right now, Corey Zimmerman up on lane 40, working on 4 in a row. At 2:06 in game 1, gets the 5-bagger, and they tell us he's bowling with a fractured wrist.
We did. We just got a note passed to us. Right fractured wrist. I consider it to be hard to repeat releases that way, and we've seen a little bit of that. A couple that have gotten off his hand really steep, like he missed them at the bottom, and a couple others that he makes sure he hangs on to. But for the most part, he has put together good shots and benefited from his stringing. He had a 5-bagger to end game 1. He's got another one here in the middle of the game, so he is hanging in there and throwing good shots, giving himself a chance at a number.
We see Geringer, who is new to this group, hasn't bowled with them before. Starting this game with 4 in a row. 5 out of the first 6, looking at the 3-pin right now. He had 195 in game number 1. And again, these guys have been around a little bit. Certainly a noteworthy team both here and probably back home in Minnesota. So possibly a little bit intimidating coming out these guys. You want to make a good first impression, of course.
Hold off. Yeah, helped it a little too much.
Is that that's the original ball he went back to?
Yeah, it went back to the first ball. It looked like the last frame. I'm not watching real close every shot, but the other ball that struck, he did get a little bit more to the left. That one looked like he helped it a little bit. Got it going up the lane.
Great shot there from Eric George, and that's 4 in a row for him. And
yeah, you can just see how much more comfortable they look. It looks like the ball's picking up a little bit early. Everybody's just getting it off their hand better, trusting that it's going to make the move it needs to make down lane, and now they're starting to throw some strikes together.
Well, Eric was one of the guys early on that looked like he was laying it down too deep, and it was squirting to the right. But he tightened up his line a little bit, moved his feet a little bit to the right, and he's been right on here in game number 2 after a 172 start. So sometimes it just takes, like you said, a few frames to get comfortable, make the right adjustments, get in the right part of the lane.
Absolutely. And then you just hope that the guys that don't have it and find it, you hope the guys that already had it don't lose it. That's how you put up a good number here. That's a good shot. Oh, light. Just doesn't look like Rod's ball reacts exactly the same every shot here. That not quite reading what it's going to do when it gets down lane. Still clean with a double. Got to get the second bowler on track here. 3 opens with only 1 strike. And the bottom 3 bowlers on the team on top they got it going. Maybe it looks like they switched some names around here to kind of even out the teams a little bit more.
There's a flat 7 from McCullough kind of after the 4-bagger, so he's right there where he needs to be. He's kind of fitting it in there.
Yep, he doesn't have a whole lot of rev rate, so the ball really doesn't make a strong move down lane, so he's got to be fairly accurate, and he has to let the ball hook. And then the other thing you run into with more of a easier ball speed, you get a little bit wide, and it makes it back, but it doesn't have anything left on it to hit. I know how that goes. I wish I had like 3 more reps. Oh, can't do that.
So yeah, it's the little miscues, and we saw it on our first broadcast with Mike Diaz and David Anthony and the guys. Just can't miss the easy ones, give away pins like that. Of course, you got the team event, and all part of the bigger picture team all events on the line as well. Terry Phelps down on lane 30 with the front 9. He gets the 10th one. Looks like the 5-7 went late.
I mean, we're about 10 lanes away here, but he looks like a very straight style bowler. Not a lot of leverage there at the bottom. Just kind of saw him finish his follow through there. That one looked like he fell off of it a little bit.
So I'd like to get the camera turned that way. I don't think
barely caught a piece of the head pin there, and
don't think we can work the angles just well enough. So we'll have to bring it to you.
He's up pretty good again here, about pretty quick. That might have been a crossover.
He got number 11.
Kind of hard to see from over here.
Aaron Smith on the case. See if he gets the video camera out. So far, 2 300s this year.
Kind of got quiet here, and all of a sudden. Looked like it went high.
Didn't sound very good from here. 298. Looks like he left the
baby
310,
split.
the
Yep,
baby
310.
split. So our first bowler of the year to get that close, and he'll forever be a celebrity here, but he'll probably forever want that shot back as well.
Absolutely.
Now we look at Barry Zimmerman. It took him 8 years to get back to that opportunity at 299 in 2002. And came back in 2010 with a 300. So sometimes that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and
You just have all the numbers.
that's what we do.
Man, you're good.
We try to do our homework, do our best, learn what we can, so we can at least sound halfway intelligent while we're here for 3 hours talking about these guys. And now there's
Very
Jeff
good.
Smith.
Very prepared. I'm
762 in the team event last year. Mixes them up there. He had 182 in game 1.
There's a lot of strikes out there. You just don't sense that all these guys feel real comfortable, or otherwise they're just really mellow. But
well, we see it a lot with these Wisconsin and Minnesota teams. They're very comfortable around each other. Sometimes they have what they call their tournament teams, and they travel around to city, state, classic tournaments, and they come to the Open Championships. It's the same group. It is kind of laid back. They're having a good time. There's a lot of communication, but a lot of laughter and having a good time as well. And they don't have to think too much. They can help each other out. They know each other's games, and that's all part of being a team, a unit, and coming out from year to year. That consistency.
yeah, I think a good indication here of the pattern not really playing like 43 feet, and that's something we kind of touched on the kickoff show, is that a lot of people, and I was always one of them, I'm a believer in the rule of 31, that not that it's always exact, especially with medium patterns, but when you start to get into shorter and longer patterns, that rule of 31 kind of plays in as a good starting point. And I really believe with the machine we're using this year and the variable speed buffers, that's all going to kind of go out the window. The ratio of oil on the lane, where that ratio is, really, I can see all that changing here. The ability to taper oil side to side and front to back. It's a whole new world with this new machine and technology, and you just saw that shot there. Eric George definitely got it way wide down at the break point. For what you would consider a 43-foot pattern that didn't strike, but it got back and left them a makeable spare. But that ball had to be out to out to six or seven at the break point down there, and had no chance getting back, no trouble getting back to the head pin at least.
Eric, I think as far as teams go and having an opportunity to see a team event here on the broadcast, and we're seeing some diversity in the group a little bit. We saw some folks playing different parts of the lane early on. There's Corey Zimmerman with another great shot. But early on, they went out there where they were comfortable and have kind of migrated all to the same general area as the games have progressed. And maybe that would have been a better strategy to start. Hard to say, but maybe that was part of them getting comfortable as well.
Well, I think what's going to happen here is, and we kind of talked about it earlier, as the straighter guys have to start moving left, they're going to feel the length of the pattern more than like you see with Corey Zimmerman and Eric George here. They don't care that it's 43 feet. They got a high enough rev rate and good ball speed to get the ball to that spot down the lane and get it back around the corner and back to the pocket with enough on it to strike. The lefties are still going very straight up the lane, not really swinging the ball much. But you're kind of in-betweeners on the right side here. As they start to move left, I can see the shinier balls not hooking as much. And the other guys with the lower rev rates have maybe a little too much cover right now. And their balls just aren't quite reading the lane properly enough to get back to the pocket and string strikes. And should be a good indication. Gene's one of the guys I'm talking about here. Hasn't thrown a double this game. He's definitely moved left and has to throw the ball a little bit to the right. And it's just not matched up right. His ball speed, rev rate, and the cover stock on that ball just aren't giving him that area to get the ball to face the pocket at the right time and give him an opportunity to throw strings of strikes here. I think I would have had him doing something different 4 or 5 frames ago. But again, that's the challenges of getting everybody lined up. Try not to take too many chances. You don't want to give things away. It's always easy sitting back here. It's a whole different game when your shoes are on and you're the one letting go of the ball. A little tug shot there out of Barry Zimmerman. Just didn't give it any room to the right. Spare here will keep him clean through 9 with a turkey, so good opportunity for a decent finish, and 220 with a double in the 10th. So through 9 frames, only 5 opens. And all the doubles for those opens pretty much came out of 2 bowlers, so they still need to put up some strikes here in the 10th frame for a decent game.
All right, the light mixer for Smith, and that's a solid 9th frame for him.
Yeah, the lefties have had quite a few strikes this game that have been kind of that light tickle the head pin and mix up and have the right side go out last here. But at least they're giving themselves a chance to get to the pocket and string some strikes with the light hits. First game, they were much more tighter, kind of jamming it up the lane, trying to force the ball up high in the pocket.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in once again. This is Matt Cannizzaro and Eric Pearson. We're watching the end of game number 2 here in the 7 p.m. team event, the 2014 USBC Open Championships at the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada. Breakpoint Pro Shop 1 and 2. A lot of strikes on the board here. Looking to build on a decent start. And we'll be here all night. 3 games of the team event. Aaron Smith should be back in the mix here shortly. So Jeff Linnell there is going to finish with 2
Is that 2-teen? An open and a four-bagger early.
Linnell 238 game 1. A spare here gives him 215 in game 2.
It's kind of strange, the leadoff bowler on the other team, and I never have learned how to say his last name. Is it Neuenschwander?
It is now.
I know the name. I know Rod N. Seen the name for many years. He just doesn't look comfortable, and yet his ball's getting to the pocket every shot. Not all striking, but he just kind of comes off the lane shaking his head a lot, like he wasn't comfortable with the ball he just threw. But yet, it's pretty good motion. And maybe just trying to be too perfect, maybe.
A lot of champions in the chat room tonight. Steve Bone, doubles champ. Greg Peasel, team champion in 2012. Mike Flanagan stopping by. From Inside Bowling and Storm Bowling Products, of course. Storm, the sponsor of the Bowlers Journal Championships, presented by USBC. We haven't talked much about that. We're talking team tonight. Team pattern, 43 feet. The featured pattern downstairs on the track showcase lanes. An opportunity for your team to get down there and practice on the lane condition. Work on your strategy, your game plan, get your equipment ready. Just get comfortable. After a long flight, just get loose, throw some shots. The track showcase lanes, the team practice sessions, $125. Up to 10 of you can get out there for an hour to work on things. Showcase Lanes, also the home of the Columbia 340 frame game. If you want to have a little fun, handicap singles tournament, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, definitely see the two straighter guys here having a little trouble this game. John Miller just finished with 140, second bowler on Breakpoint 1. And Gene Allen getting up here, the number 3 bowler on Breakpoint 2. Two of the straighter players on the pair. Looks like they've seen a little transition and had to move and just not comfortable. Either the ball's not hooking enough or it's reading up a little bit early and either going high or leaving weak corner pins. So I would say those two guys need to do something a little more drastic here. Probably a ball change as well as something changed in their game, whether it's more loft or change ball speed. The lanes look a little bit trickier for them right now. And Gene went to the bag. He's got a fill ball here. He is going to make a ball change.
Tell you what, Eric, this Corey Zimmerman, fractured wrist and all.
Yeah, he didn't like that shot at all, and it shook the rack for a double in the 10th. He's going to shoot 230.
He's been throwing strikes all night, 206 in game 1. And just a couple of...
Yeah, he's got 4 opens, right? 2 the first game.
Couple of rough shots.
2 this game, and they weren't all spares, but...
Yeah, just got to get comfortable with those spare shots and try to minimize the misses, at least leave something makeable.
So as soon as we say that, it goes high. Kind of a unique leave there. He's definitely at the arrows. He's definitely 4 to 5 boards deeper than he was when we first started watching. And that ball, he didn't quite feed far enough to the right, still went high, so that's one of the things I'm curious to see is knowing that we flatten the back end of the pattern, even though it's longer, is it flat enough where you don't develop a lot of hold area? And at least with the combination of his game right now and the ball he's throwing, it looks like he doesn't have a ton of it, but you know, maybe a slightly shinier ball might give him a little bit of area. Not sure how much he'd lose to the right. But for hard to change balls on a fill ball when you're shooting 230.
Shot there from Geringer. Eric, I'm a little starstruck looking in the chat room right now. We mentioned some of the folks stopping by. Greg Zika, 2-time champ. Chris Hester, former collegiate standout. Also a solid left-hander, somebody that we should take notes on.
All followers of the Canizaro.
They're here to hear you, sir. Got Chris Hans.
You are the face, the voice of the Open Championships. So you just still sleep in your office, never go home, don't even rent an apartment, you just stay here day and night?
Well, we're
like you used to?
We're a little slower to start here, so I've been home a few times and done a few things out and about. I had a chance to enjoy some delicious Reno cuisine here with some friends this past week. And we're kind of easing into 2014, but pretty soon we'll be wall to wall, and we'll have all kinds of broadcasts. If you want to check out the live stream schedule for this year's Open and Women's Championships, you can find that on bowl.com. Go to the Open Championships page, click on the information tab, and you'll be able to find the live stream schedule and a whole lot more. There's a whole lot more for Geringer.
Yeah, he didn't have a bad look the first game. What did he shoot the first game?
195 game one. He was close.
Well, just look at, he had a couple errant shots in there and didn't have the ability to throw string any strikes the first game. And he's got a little bit more ball reaction. He's definitely more comfortable. I didn't see Jeff's shot. He must have missed one left here, missed the head pin. And Eric George definitely looking comfortable. I got to believe he's in around 17, 18. Nope, still around third arrow.
Got that one a little bit wide.
Yep.
Huge break there, though, to get the 2 and the 10.
I think he's right on the edge of maybe being a hair too far to the right with the break point. I'm surprised he's trying to get the ball that wide and bring it back that late. But he might have missed right on that shot. Hard to argue, though. Another strike for 250.
Huge game 2 here for Breakpoint Pro Shop 1. They started with 941. Already 100 pins better. And Eric George still not done. And leaves the flat dime there. That one a little bit harder and straighter. And didn't have quite the angle of the first shot.
Yeah, looked like it quit a little more.
He'll be at 247 with the spare after a 172 start. And Breakpoint 2 also over 1,000 again here in game 2. 10:08 start.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, for the lefties, obviously I'll want to come out and see a couple others bowl, but I got to believe there's more of an angle by taking the ball and going right to left with it. Obviously, these guys kind of roll up the ball and they don't cover a lot of boards, and they're trying to play much straighter angles. But I got to believe there's a big window of opportunity out there for lefties that have a little more rotation and can get right and open up the lane a little bit to the left.
Well, and it's just a matter of being brave enough, I guess, to do that, give away the pocket a little bit, and hope that the ball makes the turn. And a miss at that angle to the left is going to be a washout. Or do you just play it straighter and tighter and just try to get the ball to the head pin that way? Play a little bit safer, I guess, is where I was headed with that. Because, they might not open up. It may take too long. So, but then I feel like a lot of times you're then trying to place the ball, and you're so close, and you try to open it up, and bad things can happen.
No, you're right. When you try to create too much angle, try to open things up, usually things do go south. The more boards I try to cover, the more danger I get into. I know that for sure.
Another good shot there from McCullough. Aaron Smith is in the area. He is ready to come on and share some insight here in a minute. Right now, this is Matt Canizaro and Eric Pearson bringing it to you live from the 2014 USBC Open Championships Game 3 of this team event. And we saw a big Game 2. And 2 7-10s now here to start.
That's crazy.
For Breakpoint Pro Shop 1, 941, 1090 in Game 2. And back-to-back 7-10s to start the finale. And Breakpoint 2, 10:08, 10:39, and they start with 3 in a row. So kind of a roller coaster, a seesaw between these two teams. This group mixing it up a little bit this year, a little personnel change, and people changing teams after a good run in 2013. And they're pretty even here through 2 games. Ryan Whitney checking in the chat room. He'll be on the live stream on opening day for the Women's Championships, actually the morning or the afternoon of April 11th. Ryan had 300 in Baton Rouge on a very tough condition. Had the singles and all events and doubles lead all at one point. Those guys starting to put on a show on April 11th, and then of course we'll bring you the opening of the Women's Championships on Bull.com. All right, Pearson, I'm going to get a coin out of my bag here. We're going to flip it because now this year we only have 2 headsets. So we're going to decide who's out, me or you.
It's not enough headsets. What what happens when you bring guests in?
Well, one of us gets to stand by. Our operation is streamlined this year.
So you guys are like a tag team?
We do. We're the best team in the business. Don't forget that.
You're the boss, you tell me.
We're the B team, but B is for best. We're the best team in the business. Don't forget that.
I'm not questioning that.
So Aaron Smith standing by. Here's the coin. We got the heads and the tails. I'll let you call it in the air. It's pretty.
Heads is painted.
It is, so you can't mistake it.
Kind of looks like a casino chip.
Your eyesight at your age.
My eyes
you
are
cannot
bad.
mistake it. It's bright pink. You
All
ready?
right, I'm gonna call the other side.
Here we go. Coins in the air. Call it in the air. You didn't call it in the air. You're a cheater.
I didn't call it in the
I
air.
didn't hear anything. Let's try it again.
I said I'm gonna call the other
The
side.
other side. So you wanted the tails. Let's
I
try this
did.
again. The other side. You got the
It
pink and
well,
the
it
tail.
just came up, and you're not.
Here we go. You ready? This one counts.
Now I'm gonna take the pink side.
It's like the Super Bowl. Eric says heads. It's up. Heads it is.
Does that mean I leave?
That's your choice. Give you the choice.
You're the boss.
Yep. I know you and Aaron Smith equally capable. I'll be glad to step out. Let Mr. Smith take over. Your insight, his wit. I'm going to call it a night, folks. Once again, Matt
you're not coming
Canizaro.
back?
I might be back, but you guys don't need my help.
Yeah, I don't know if I can sit here all 3 games.
Well, you just let me know. I'll be standing nearby. But we'll bring in the witty Aaron Smith. I'm going to step out, folks.
All right.
Game 3 underway. We'll be right back.
Better shot out of John Miller there. Started with an open. Really struggled the second game, but really good shot there. A little more direct up the lane. See if he can repeat that here for a couple frames. Greg McCullough, one of the lefties on Breakpoint Pro Shop 2 with an early double. Still lined in. Had a decent second game. And a good break for Gene Allen to catch a double to start game 3. He's run into some transition, kind of feeling things out. Made a couple moves the second game. Nothing really seemed to pan out for him. He's trying a different ball here. Just having a little bit trouble feeding the ball to the right. Barry Zimmerman trying to put up a strike in the 4 spot. He has definitely moved left from earlier in the night. That ball crossed a little bit inside third arrow. got plenty of push down the lane, and it just arced up enough at the back end. 10 in the pit. He has definitely migrated left. I'm going to say almost an arrow by now. His earlier shots I thought were around 11. He's now closer to third arrow, even a little inside third arrow. He's been around the pocket the whole night. Anchorman Jeff Smith up, see if we can get a team hang here. A little bit of a steer there through the face. 2, 4, 7, 8. Not an easy spare.
It's never a fun one, Eric.
I can never make this.
That's because you don't like the 247 in general.
I'd have to say my percentage at that spare is like 20%, maybe. I should probably work on that. I'm not going to leave any this year.
There you go. Solves the
I'm not
problem.
going to leave any.
Jeff Smith takes care of it.
I'm not going to help the ball go high. There's plenty of recovery on the lane, I think. Plenty of reaction. No need to help the ball. Get it off your hand.
Thanks for filling in for me while we were taking care of your boys from Wisconsin.
Yeah. What do you know?
Town and Country Lanes #1 taking over the lead right before we got ready to set up our live stream gear. So Matt took care of that. I took care of the story, all that fun stuff. Messed up some things on Facebook, but it's all fixed now. And
just generally speaking, I'd have to believe. I mean, I know the guys. I don't know all their games inside and out, but obviously I know, 3 or 4 of those players fairly well, and they have. They're not short on revs. How's that? And Tony Buss, Dave Gajewski, Zagar, and who was their fifth? Is Jerry on that team?
Jerry Reamer.
Jerry Reamer's their fifth.
Yep.
Yeah, he doesn't leave anything in the bag on any shot.
Throws it so smooth you don't even hear it hit the lanes.
I'm not saying that means anything. I just possibly that as the lanes transition and you have to migrate a little bit left, obviously the higher rev rate's not going to hurt you. For what that's worth. But 4 pretty good rev rates on that team. And then Rob Milbrath's a much straighter player. Him I know very well. He actually is from my area, and he has worked very hard on his game to increase rotation without picking up ball speed. He always threw the ball very firm and stayed behind it, so he never really covered a lot of boards, had trouble playing in. And I know over the last 2-3 years that's something he's worked hard at, but I heard he struggled here the third game when he did have to move.
Rob did run into some troubles to the 160s in the final game. Still managed 600. So that was, as I was listening to you guys in the office while I was working on the story, and mentioned someone has always got to be low. That's part of life, but
right.
612, he certainly earned it the first 2 games, and then the transition kind of caught all of them, and they actually had a very strong 8th, 9th, and 10th frame, which got them to that 3,300 number.
I mean, if that's any kind of an indication to last year, they were within 20 pins of their score last year, and obviously maybe not the same guys bowling the same scores, but there were some similarities. Tony Buss had a rough first game.
True, 160s for the second consecutive year.
Exactly, and comes back with nearly 500 for the next 2, but not quite this year.
Yeah, Tony caught a rail in the 10th frame to go 2-0 in game number 2, but then he was actually the one guy who was striking in game number 3 for the group. Finished up in the 240s.
Okay.
So that was the guy basically keeping them afloat for those few frames while everyone was struggling. Tony was the only one striking. But yeah, he turned that 160 into 2,000 plus last year. So, and that group on the 2013 doubles and singles pattern, a foot shorter with less volume, they went plus 400 and change.
Correct.
So they'll be back at 11 a.m. tomorrow. We'll see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, so earlier I kind of observed and I thought maybe we'd see some, big third games if they transition them properly. I mean, obviously 43 feet. We don't feel like there's a big pile of oil at the back end of the pattern to hold the ball back. It's fairly flat. Not a lot of units of oil down the lane, but last year that particular team, I watched them from the grandstands because both of these teams were going at it, and to me it looked like they had quite a bit of hold area by the third game. They had migrated left and their angles opened up a little bit. The guys that turned the ball up definitely were having no trouble getting the ball to push. It sounds like they didn't quite have that same look here the third game. Or maybe they just didn't jump in far enough. And I'm not sure. I didn't come by to watch them this year.
But the premonition from last night came true. Ran to those guys at Silver Legacy last night. You introduced me to him. And you said, this is a guy who's going to write a story about you tomorrow. How about that? Eric Pearson.
They're a solid team. I mean, obviously they're not a bunch of names you're used to hearing from Wisconsin, but they're a solid bunch of guys, and they're a good team working together. And they definitely have some guys that once they get it going, they can throw strings of strikes and feed off of each other. And I would have to assume that's what they did for a couple of games.
Well, in game number 2, Matt Zagar led the way, had the front 8 strikes. He already has 1,300 in his Open Championships career back in Billings in 2002. He actually opened in the 9th. I believe it was a single pin.
Yep.
Finished the game out for 267, but
heard a 10 pin and a flag and then strikeout.
But yeah, they shot 11.54, the highest game so far here. I heard you guys talking earlier. You think we could see some pretty big scores by game number 3, depending on how teams work together?
I'm not so sure now. I'd have to wait and see a couple different strong teams break them down maybe a little bit differently than this. Not a lot of hand on this pair, so you only see 2 or 3 guys that are able to migrate left and kind of open up the lane. The other guys can move that way, but I think they don't necessarily buy into that they're going to carry. You see a few balls cut short, not quite projected enough to the right. We'll see what happens here.
Right now, Breakpoint Pro Shop 2, plus 47 after 2 games, off to a strong start in the finale here. Craig McCullough with the first 4 strikes. Gene Allen leaving the always tricky 3-9. We'll take a look at Corey Zimmerman here on lane 40. Three, 6, 9, 10. So Eric, I talked to Eric George a little bit before they started. I know Matt brought it up, but he said they really didn't have much of a game plan. It was just kind of, they felt multiple angles played. So they just kind of went out and were going to feel it out, do their thing, and go from there. And from what you've seen, you've been here the whole time. I've been running around. We had a 298 by Terry Phelps over on 2930. We were down watching that, or getting the story up. Just based off of what they've done today, what would you suggest for those watching at home? What kind of changes would you suggest, or did you like how they did it, or?
Talking with Matt, I didn't, just watching the first 6, 7 frames, they just didn't look comfortable. The guys who probably had decent looks just didn't feel like they were getting to the lane solid enough or trusted what they were doing to throw enough strikes early on. You know, they only put up 1,008. You know, granted, there were some missed spares, but there were some tentative shots that I think ended up in opens because of splits. And then it looked like they kind of got comfortable towards the end of the first game. But I don't know. I mean, I'm still a believer that you have to somewhat play in the same area down the lane. That break point's got to be close. And as long as the guys that are to the left aren't throwing too much surface that might affect the guys that have to move that way. You see a little bit of that here, but it's not like the balls are having trouble getting down the lane. So, I don't know. I always like slightly straighter angles on the outside to start and then just migrate from there. There was a little bit of separation. The guys with hand were, I'm not saying they weren't too far left, but they were left and not repeating good shots.
Well, looking in the chat room, I know Matt Cannizzaro would, where was he? He was just around, would be all about this. Mike Flanagan suggesting they order a pizza and send it to the broadcast booth for every live stream this year. We'd probably see more of you around, wouldn't we?
That is a stellar idea. Let's see, Mike, it's JJ's Pie Company on
6th Street, I believe.
Is it 5th Street? Just down the road from Circus.
It's not bad.
Can't go wrong with JJ's.
It's actually a new place where the old California Pizza was at. It's called Yummy's now. Matt and I went there the other day. Get a 16-inch pizza for $5.99.
Smelled good walking by yesterday.
It certainly does.
See if Greg McCullough can keep front 5 here.
Looks pretty good.
Great shot.
All 10. Again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Matt Cannizzaro was in the booth earlier. He's gone to wander around, make sure everything stays in place. I'm Aaron Smith, just joining in. And of course, we've had Eric Pearson, our special guest, all night long here on Bull TV, presented by Track. Breakpoint Pro Shop number 1 and 2 out of Sartell, Minnesota.
What's next on the lineup? What's the next show?
The next show, just around the corner here, March 22nd. Once again, a 7 p.m. squat out here. So 10 on the East Coast. We'll actually have another team event. We'll be featuring former PBA exempt player Craig Tucholsky, Kathy Tribby, and their talented group.
Okay.
And then Mr. Flanagan in the chat room right now. He mentioned he'll be out here on April 1st. We will actually have, the next one after that will be USBC Hall of Famer and a 3-time champion here, Bob Hart, going for 100,000 pins.
Really?
Live on Bull TV.
Oh, that's super.
Just 472 pins away. We're pretty sure he'll have that in 2 games, because that's what Bob does. He gets stuff done. But those are our next 2.
Bob had some health issues last year, I recall. Was it last year or has that already been 2 years?
That was actually at the World Series of Bowling, I believe, back in November. But all reports, his wife's always putting updates on up on his Facebook page, and it sounds like Bob's ready to go, ready to do this and get that crystal pin.
How many of those have we given away over the years?
13. 13 total. Joe Norris, USBC Hall of Famer, still on top of that list with 123,770 pins over his 71-year career. course.
Very, very fortunate to be part of this tournament. Obviously, I'm at the women's now, but worked quite a few Open Championships and had the pleasure of watching Joe Norris for a handful of years, as well as Dick Weber. And definitely miss having those names and legends here at the tournament. But slowly creating some new ones here.
Absolutely. We have Bill Lillard's going to continue his run at that record. Not too far away. He's 121,000 plus. I think it's 434. It's kind of hard to read the banner from here, so potentially in 2 years. We have our good friend Sylvester Thiel coming in March 19th, just a few days from now, bowling in his 69th Open Championship.
Yeah, Sylvester came and visited me down at the women's last year and talked for about an hour. Get a chance to see him every once in a while, so that was nice for him to come and visit.
And McCullough's run of strikes ends at 5, leaving the 4-6. But yes, still one of the, I got to meet him for the first time last year, and would have never guessed at 68 tournaments and running around the way he was. Just a spark plug, full of energy and running around, taking care of business on the lanes. So after this year, only 2 years away. From potentially matching USBC Hall of Famers Norris and Bill Dorman out of Fort Wayne with 71.
That's right. And believe it or not, we have a lady bowler at the women's who will be reaching her 68th this year.
Minnie
Tavaska from St. Petersburg, so looking forward to that. See her another year as she comes back. She breaks her own record every year, so.
Yeah, every year since 2008. That's when she set the record back in Detroit. And she bowled in her 62nd, and she's just keeps moving along. I think she'll be 96 this year.
Wow, I have lost track.
Has bowled every tournament since 1947. It's about when you were born, I think.
Well, every year we like to do something a little special for her, so we're trying to give me some ideas to try and celebrate and make number 68 feel different than all the rest for her. But just an incredible streak.
68, ain't it great? The Women's Championships. Although I don't think Canizaro would approve of me saying ain't on a broadcast. Barry Zimmerman mixes them up after an open in the 5th. 2 opens there for Breakpoint Pro Shop number 2 in the 6th. We're still looking at a solid number, not what they had last year. Actually looks like the lineup's a little mixed up from last year, from the main 5. Saw Jeff Smith throw a lot of strikes during that event. The shot was in the 760s.
Yeah, he just had a few tonight that he's helped over. You know, just got him in, kind of rolled around it a little bit early. Just kind of slowed him down from stringing any strikes tonight.
Few champions bowling on this squad, designated on the boards, including 2007 regular singles winner right here at the stadium, Frederick Chipakee.
I'll say, how's Chip bowling?
He's been really good in frames 1 through 9, and he's actually opened both 10th frames, sitting about 430 after 2. I'm sure I didn't see what he left in the second game. But I heard in the first game he actually left a big 4 in the 10th frame to go 2-0. We had Chip on the live stream last year. I think that was our first look at the doubles and singles pattern. Bowling with his son Christian, always a very cool opportunity. And I don't know if Matt brought it up, but we're going to get to see your son not too long from now, right here on Bowl TV.
That is a fact. Very strong team. Made a real good run last year at the team event. They've been a pretty strong team and contender for quite a few years. They've been known as the Red Carpet Lanes team. New sponsor this year. Same 5 guys. I believe they have the same crossing team.
They bowled with John Sosha, who's got a few titles here.
Brian Brazeau, Jace Peterson.
Dennis Rakoskis.
Yep.
Two unbelievably solid groups there. So now we get to see Chad Kloss roll a 300 on their almost record-breaking final game, 1272 on their way to 34.99. That's way down on the low end. I think 5 and 6.
Yes. I'm sure their expectations will be just as high this year, and
because we were actually live streaming someone else when they bowled doubles and singles last year. I believe Henry Teets was back with
yes,
returning or defending his regular singles titles from Baton Rouge, along with Ron Vokes and their talented crew. Henry and Benny Hafes nearly took over the doubles lead that day. I think they ended up making the top 10, just under 1,400.
Yeah, that'll be nice. The women's tournament won't be underway yet for another week, so I'll be able to come down and watch the kid bowl. The daughter will be out here in the middle of April. Her team advanced through the sectionals today. The Lindenwood boys, men's and women's teams both advanced. So
that's true. Our lineup for the X-Bowling Intercollegiate Team and Singles Championships all set. Had the individual rounds on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday was the team event, 64 Baker games. So our field is set for both events, top 24 men and top 16 girls individually, and top 16 men's and women's teams are going to be right here in Reno, Nevada, down the street at the Reno Sparks Convention Center from April 14th to the 18th until we have champions crowned.
Yeah, I'll put the final touches on that. We got a little bit of work to do. Get all of our logos and things set so we can have the scoreboards ready to go for that event. Everything should be in order here with another week of testing, and should be ready to host that event. I know how much the kids and the parents loved it when it was in El Paso in 2010 by us, and we hope we can put on as good a show or better again this year when they come to Reno.
That certainly was fun in 2010. First time the ITC had ever been held in a convention center setting, and yes, the kids did enjoy that very much. From talking to them, I had a personal rooting interest in Calumet. Grew up with many of those kids, so it was fun to watch them all week. And yeah, just the tall ceilings, the tournament the championship atmosphere, I should say, is unmatched. Especially, I know for a lot of those kids, that was their first opportunity to bowl in a facility like that. So, and of course, the collegiate game transfers so well to here at the Open and Women's Championships. All the same things apply. The need for teamwork, communication, game planning, all that fun stuff, all that strategy. And that should bring in our new era of bowlers right there.
Right. Yeah, I know in 2010 we only had the team event also.
That was true.
I believe the singles was at a different time frame, and so this year we'll actually have both events in the same venue that week. So really looking forward to that. Great college bowling. It's a great atmosphere. I heard they're still trying to figure out how we're going to do the live stream there. But definitely coverage. I believe, has Lucas come out for that one?
And Lucas will be in town. To make sure everything runs smoothly for that.
We'll get a little bit stronger game here out of both teams. Fewer opens, and the strings of strikes have gotten a little bit longer. More doubles.
After a very strong start from breakpoint number 2, ran to a few opens there in the 5th and the 6th. Nice 7th frame though. Breakpoint number 1 starting to cash in on some strikes here. A few opens early, they're looking to bounce back here. Had the big game number 2, 1090, after the 941 start. Gene Allen gets them all to cooperate.
Yep. Last couple balls, finally got one out to the right there. Got around just enough. We were kind of saying earlier how it looked like some of the couple straighter guys here had a little bit of trouble the second game. Maybe didn't pick up on the move big enough. When they did make the move, they didn't repeat shots as well as they did the first game. And now it looks like they're just trying to grind through here and not give anything back here and let the guys who are a little bit deeper with hand try to give them the pins.
Three, 4, 6, 10 for Barry Zimmerman. She have a nice conversion of the 5-7 on 38. I'm sure Matt gave the rundown on Barry's career here at the Open. 299 game, and then the first 300 of the 2010 event right here at the National Bowling Stadium. I actually got to cover that, so that was before I made my way to the Sun City to party with Amigo Man.
I was complimenting him on how well prepared he was with all those facts. How you guys don't miss anything.
Oh, I'm sure we miss plenty, but we make it look good, though.
It's pretty amazing, I think.
Well, Matt is the true historian of the Open Championships. If there's anything you ever need to know, be sure to email him at matt.canizaro@bowl.com, and he will let you know about it. I'm sure he'll love that plug right there. He's no longer sitting behind me. Looks like Jeff Smith has migrated. I don't know if that shot was a little left off his hand. Probably not what he was expecting, but
yeah,
it looks like he's still playing fairly straight. Has that been his look the whole day?
He, almost a little bit more of a point earlier on, and then went to a weaker covered ball, and it just had too much back end for him. It didn't look like he was comfortable with it, and he went back to the stronger, more rolly ball. I mean, that ball there looked like he projected it a little bit more down the lane instead of angled in towards the head pin, but it just labored to get back and didn't make it the whole way and left a 3.79. Rod's looks been very consistent the whole night. He's only thrown a couple shots where I think he didn't feel like he got it where he needed to get it to, but just hasn't really been able to string anything. But been pretty consistent the whole night.
There's another strike from McCullough. He's looking at a nice game here. Still has 240s out there.
You just sense watching them that there's something missing. That there's remember them being a little bit louder last year. Obviously, they were putting up a bigger number, but you never sense them get out of the gates this year, or that excitement level raised or that intensity level ever got to a point. It's almost like I don't know what it is. They're just. It almost looks like they're going through the motions that they just know they can't put up a big number, and they're just kind of plugging along, and I don't quite know why that is.
Both teams still certainly looking at a respectable number. Maybe a little bit lower than what they would like, especially after last year with the big 33-58.
Yeah. And I guess on my end of it, maybe that's what I'm expecting. I mean, we had so many good scores in that 32-33 range last year that maybe I'm expecting that again, and maybe that's just not the case. Maybe that little bit of flatter oil down lane is going to keep them a little more honest than I think.
Well, last year we saw a record pace in the team event, 3,400 shot. And of course, the highest score of all time, 35-38 by John Gaines, John Janowitz and company. But scores somewhat on pace from last year's scoring pace, at least. I mean, it is a different year. Stadium's got another year of wear and tear on it, so patterns are different, but scoring pace in general right along the same lines as we were at this point. Obviously, that's going to change as we go on. And I think it's interesting that some of the scores are fairly close to.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was saying about the team this afternoon. Is that team bowling 20 pins less than last year an indication of scoring pace? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's not showing with this team tonight as opposed to last year, but it doesn't mean that it's not out there as it was last year.
All right, we're just about done with the 9th frame here. Eric George stepping up on 39. I think I heard Matt talk about his record here at the Open Championships over 7 or 8 years. I think his low is in the 1840s or 1880s. He's been putting up great numbers here on the biggest stage. Almost looked like he fell out of that shot there. Didn't look as smooth as
yeah, that's kind of what I've been seeing the whole night. Just not quite out of it. Maybe as clean as it needs to be. But he's thrown plenty of strikes. So whatever he's doing, it's working. Just every once in a while, the ball gets a little bit right on him, and it just doesn't quite have a strong enough roll to get back. I'm not sure if he just doesn't get out of those as clean or what it is. But, yeah, almost all of his non-strikes are balls that have pushed to the right and just not had enough to pick up soon enough to get back.
There's a double for Rod.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Made a pretty good shot in the 9th. Had a 10-pin stand up. They'll still be in the 2 teens here. Bouncing back after an open in the 1st. It's looking like both teams be around that 3,000 number.
And Jeff here, I think, has stayed with the same ball the whole night. We didn't really take any notes or anything the first game, but I believe he was throwing that orange and yellow ball. Is that the new hammer ball?
It may be. It does look like the hammer deadly aim.
Deadly aim, yeah.
You saw plenty of those at League this past Wednesday.
Yeah, we got beat by 2 of those at league.
Bowling
of
course. Some of the guys from the Hammer booth.
Of course, I didn't strike very often.
Well, you lefties were having some fun out there with all the transition, especially on the burn. Yeah, we got to see a few of those bowling with, or against some of the guys from the Hammer booth, Chris Castro, Keith Lang. You always get to see the latest and greatest.
Well, I'm hoping that was my low score for the year.
We need it to be if we want to win.
I'll try and step up.
With the spare, Linnell finishes up 233. See, McCullough has not struck the last 2 times on 39. See if you can get it going once again.
Hold off. Yes. John Miller bounces back with a .92. He had a rough second game, but pulled it back together for a decent finish.
I believe he was at 140 last game, but brought it back. His teammates held him up at 1090. So he was returning the favor this game. McCullough in the 240s. Eric Pearson taking my job as statistician here.
I can write them down, but you don't want me to add them.
McCullough finishes up 246. Great effort there in game number 3. Avoids trouble there, leaving just the 610. Corey Zimmerman finishes up 216. According to Eric Pearson's sketchy math, Jeff Linnell 688, Greg McCullough 664.
Sketchy?
Yes, sketchy math. You said it yourself. I'm just taking your word for it. Gene finishes it out with a strike for 202.
That was a great shot, by the way. Looks like he had a little more rotation. He kind of got around the ball nice and soft, and it went down the lane and turned really nice. He might have been forcing the ball a little bit before that, causing him to get up the back of it more and not project it to the right.
Rick bounces back from the gutter there, picks it up, not a problem. Barry in the 10th. All 10 back. Still has 2 20s out there. Breakpoint Pro Shop number 2 still has 31 and change out there. The final 5 strikes, they'd be at 31-39. That one's going to have to hustle. Looks like Barry's had some issues with, just from walking around a little bit.
Yeah.
He's had some issues with his footing here.
Yeah, falling off a lot of shots.
Breakpoint Pro Shop number 1. Saw his 30-60 out there. Make that 30-50. Barry takes one. He finishes up at 205. Already at 30.94. Jeff Smith can add 30 on top of that. Eric George finishes up 215 to give Breakpoint Pro Shop number 1 10:22 in the finale for 30-53. Got a fill ball from Jeff Smith left to go. And that's going to do it this evening on Bowl TV from the one and only Reno, Nevada. All 10 fall for Jeff. Finishes with 181 to give Breakpoint Pro Shop number 2 1067 and 31-14. So a little bit lower from what they put up last year, but still solid scores overall from both teams. 30-53 and 31-14. Nothing to feel bad about there.
As I said, I have a math mistake.
That's why I called it sketchy.
That's a 6.
Can't even read your own writing. All right, Eric, that's going to do it for us today. I want to thank you for filling in, helping us out. It sounded like you gave the folks a lot of great insight to what was going on in the lanes, and we certainly appreciate the look from the lane man.
I can't believe I just sat here and talked for 3 hours.
Yeah, we can believe that. I want to thank you for stepping in and helping us out today.
You.
Of course, Matt Cannizzaro holding down the fort, games 1 and 2. No, he's around here somewhere, working hard, making sure we haven't missed anything. And of course, I'm Aaron Smith. And our next broadcast on Bowl TV, presented by Track, will be on March 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. out here in Reno. Craig Tucholsky, Kathy Tribby, we'll see their team event. So be sure to tune in then. We'll also have some, between now and then, Lucas Wiseman's going to take over the reins of Bowl TV for a few days to show the SWAC Championship qualifying on March 21st and 22nd, so be sure to tune in for that. He's going to actually have some bowling early in the day. We're going to take over Bowl TV later at night. So be sure to put that on your schedule. Please subscribe to Bowl TV at youtube.com/Bowl TV. And once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll steal Matt's end line. That's the news for now. We'll see you on the lanes.